Alright, this tutorial is showing how to make a note card in the NoodleTools program, and I've already created one sample note card to show you how the project homepage will look. If I look at my example research project, it's the last one I edited, so it is open, and I look about to the middle of that task box. Under notes, I can see the number 1. That means there's one note card tied to a source in this project. I also want to show you how to make a note card, so I'm going to go ahead and open my tutorial project. You can see that there are no note cards yet in this project. And then I get to my dashboard. Now I have two ways to get to my note cards feature, kind of like the Works Cited page. I can go up here to the navigation bar, or I can scroll down, again looking for that puzzle piece for components, and the second link, note cards and outline. I can click either one, both will get me where I need to go. Alright, now to make a note card, kind of like when you make a new project, you're looking for that green plus size or a plus sign button. I'm going to go ahead and click that, and then you get your note card page. This is your note card. It doesn't look like the lined index card or anything like that, but it does have a spot for every piece of information you could possibly need on your note card. I'm going to go ahead and title this sample note card. Seems like a pretty good idea to me. And then I can tie it directly to a source, which is what I really like about this note card. You will never, so long as you do these steps, you will never have a note card that you cannot remember what source it came from, because you can always tie it directly to a source. I only have one source in this tutorial project, Code Talker, which was the book citation I did last time. So I'm going to go ahead and tie it to that source. If I found a direct quote from the book, I could say the page number, or if I'm paraphrasing or summarizing a section, I could give the page range in this box. If I happen to find it digitally, I would go ahead and put my URL here. Maybe I'm tagging it something specific. I'm not really going to mess with tags at all, because this is my first note card. I don't have a pattern yet with my note cards, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that one. If I had a pile already started, I could add this one directly to a pile. Otherwise, I can make a pile later to help with my organization. And then all that would be left are these three big text boxes. We're first going to look at the direct quotation box. Again, some just kind of random formatting things. You can pick the paragraph style. I never change my paragraph style. That's really up to you. You can pick a font size. The sizes do work differently than on Microsoft Word or Google Docs, but they do give you the point approximation. I rarely ever mess with my font size. And you can also bold, italicize, underline, alignment stuff. You can also highlight, which I actually do use on my note cards. But this is what I call step 1. And this note card is for direct quotes that you're pulling from your sources. So when you format this, I'm going to have you practice the direct quotation formatting. Might as well do it now, since you're going to have to do it in any paper you turn in, and especially on the project you're working on right now. So pretending that I'm citing this or pulling an in-text citation from a source into my projects. This is my sample note card. That works for me. Alright, and then I would say, let's call it Mr. Smith. Wrote this on page 8. Good enough for me. Alright, but this section is reserved for direct quotes from sources. Alright, and just to kind of show you the highlight feature, let's highlight step 1, shall we? Maybe blow it up with a bigger font size here. Oops. Yeah. And let's make it bright pink. Yay! Highlight feature. Pretty normal. You can also hyperlink. If you want to hyperlink directly to a video or something, you can select your text and do that here. But that's what I want you to do for step 1. Step 2 is for paraphrasing or summarizing. And here we are going to reserve this space directly for paraphrases or summaries of the direct quotes in the left-hand box. So let's do the labeling like we did before, and then reserve this area for paraphrases or summaries. I do want you to ask yourself a couple of questions as you are working to complete this box. I do want you to, 1, compare this statement to the quote in the left. Alright, because if the statements don't match in any way, what are you trying to paraphrase? Step 2, how about we actually make that a step? Ask yourself, do the ideas from this box mirror the ideas in step 1? Because if they don't, you're not paraphrasing the same idea. You don't want it to look exactly alike, because then you're not paraphrasing, you're just not citing something correctly using an in-text direct quotation. So you do want to make sure the ideas are the same, but you are using your own words. So if they're not the same, think about how to rephrase your statement while keeping the main idea. Alright, so just make sure that your statement and your quote are not too closely matched, but you do want to keep those ideas constant, just so I know that you're paraphrasing someone's quote. You're not just using a source to use a source. Alright, and then finally, step 3 is your ideas pane. And honestly, this is one of the most important panes in my class. This space is reserved for your reflections. And I do want you to ask yourself a couple of questions as you complete this box. Number 1, what have you learned from the above quotes? Right? Because you have to work to embed other people's ideas to support your ideas within your paper, or as we're working on right now, your project. You have to make them work seamlessly into your own writing. They have to support an opinion. They have to be a supporting fact or a detail that will lead to the bigger picture. You can't just plunk a quote down in your paper. So what are you learning from these quotes? What are you taking with you for your project? The second question, which version of these ideas being the idea stated in the quote or in your paraphrase, maybe it's just one idea, maybe there are a couple of ideas there, but which version of these ideas fit better in your presentation? Because sometimes direct quotes can't be beat. Sometimes you really want to use those authors' words. They've said it perfectly. You don't really have a way to make it any better. It supports your opinion exactly as it is. All you have to do is introduce it and then sum it up after you've put it in your project. So sometimes direct quotations are okay. However, a paper or a presentation that is just direct quotes can be kind of boring for a reader because usually we'll have a mix of author voices. We never get to really know the voice of our author, or as your teacher, I won't get to know your voice as one of my students. So sometimes a paraphrase, while it might not be as concise as, and that's not really the right word, it might not read exactly like the author who originally wrote that idea reads, but it lends more to your voice as a student. So sometimes I prefer paraphrases because I really get to know how you stand and what your ideas actually are. So which version does fit better in your presentation? How are you going to work it into your presentation? And I also want you, step 3 isn't really a question, but I do want you to think of how you are going to introduce the quote or main idea from the source. So even if you're using a paraphrase, you still have to introduce the source that it's from, probably giving me the author's name or the web host if you are citing a website. So how are you going to introduce the quote, main idea from the source? And then what purpose does it serve? All right, and then after your quote or summary is used, how will you transition? Again, we do want to think about how can we make our presentations flow from point to point to point, still giving all of the information required, but making it interesting for our audience. Again, when we work on informative writing and you do a paper, how are you going to transition from point to point? All right, after you're done, you are going to go ahead and hit save. And then you'll see your new note card and your new note cards page. You can move up to 10 at a time, or you can just drag and drop it onto the tabletop. And since this is the first time I'm doing it in this, you get the little tutorial notes as well. When I want to look at all of my note cards, say I have about 10 more in here, I can hover over and you'll see all of the information pop out from the note card. It gives you the source, it gives you the start of the actual text you've provided on your note card. I'm going to add a second fake one really quickly. Oops. Normally I would tie a source to that, but for the sake of time I will not. And say I want to put both of these note cards in the same pile. You don't just click on a note card. If you do that, it will open the note card. To select more than one, you have to control click. When it gets that little yellow highlight, that means both of them are selected. And you're going to go up here to the Add to Pile button. You can choose from an existing pile. I don't have an existing pile right now, so I need to create a new one. And I'm going to call this my introduction pile. Maybe I want to make a pile specifically for sources. That is also an idea. That is more than welcome. And then all of these are clumped together. We can view details, expand. Maybe we don't want to use them anymore. We can delete them. All of that is okay. And that is a little bit longer tutorial today, but that is note cards in a nutshell using NoodleTools.